What's up, guys? Hope you're doing fine in this Wednesday, equator of the working week. The weekend is closer and closer, yeah? First of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Pepe Cuenca, and I am a Spanish Grandmaster. I'm here with you guys today to analyze the game of the day of round number 2 of the super strong tournament Norway Chess. As you guys know, is taking place in Norway, and a lot of big fish are participating. A lot of super strong grandmasters such as Magnus Carlsen, Kramnik, Vachier-Lagrave, Giri, etc, etc. Yeah. So the game I'm gonna take a look on today is the fight that took place between Giri and the French Vachier-Lagrave. I have to tell you guys that the game has been extremely complicated and interesting, and I was getting even more crazier than Homer Simpson without a beer when I was trying to fully understand what was going on there. But I hope I did, and I hope to be able to share all my thoughts with you guys during this analysis. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the game. So let's start with it. So Giri decided to go for e4. He's playing aggressively. As you guys know, he won the first round. And Vachier-Lagrave replies with the Sicilian. Knight f3, d6, and then, as I told you in another video, bishop b5 is one of the most favorite lines for Magnus Carlsen in this type of position. It's a pretty solid approach. But yeah, Giri decided to open the center with d4, the main line, c takes e4, knight takes e4, knight f6, knight c3, defending the e4 pawn, and now a6. And then we are entering in the Najdorf defense. Actually, the French Vachier-Lagrave is one of the experts in this line in the wall. So these types of defense actually guarantee pretty double-edged positions. Yeah. Now many possibilities. f3, the English attack, bishop e3, h3 is very trendy these days, bishop e2. But Giri decided to go for bishop g5. It's a pretty natural move, just developing a minor piece. Yeah, preparing now to maybe play queen d2 and long castles. As you guys know, in the Sicilian, white normally tries to attack with a pawn march in the king side, yeah, with f3 or f4 followed by g4, h4. All the guys over there. And now the most common move here is e6. This is a pretty natural move. A move like g6 is actually not very accurate in this position. I know that developing your bishop in a fianchetto style is pretty common in the Sicilians, but in this position in particular is not so good, because after bishop f6 it takes f6, now your pawn structure is completely ruined, yeah, and d6 will be extremely weak. Let's say after queen d2, long castles, then later d6 will be extremely weak, yeah. So that's why e6 is normally played in these positions. And now f4, just a pretty natural move as well. Now in many lines you have this possibility of going e5. There is an annoying ping here, and you want to develop your queen normally via f3. And again, we have many options here. So one of the ideas is to go queen b6 straight away. This is known as the poison pawn, yeah. So now after queen d2, queen b2, rook b1, queen a3. Actually, white has sacrificed a pawn, but you are leading a lot in development, and then this queen is a bit misplaced, yeah. So that's why there are many games with this line, many crazy games. It's as well very difficult to understand what is going on. A lot of computerish lines. Yeah, this is an option. You can also try to go knight b7, developing a piece, just avoiding this e5 break. Also bishop e7, pretty natural move. In the game, Vachier-Lagrave decided to go for h6. It's as well one of the main lines. And now after bishop h4, queen b6. So we are entering in this sort of poison pawn line, right? Where actually now white has to do something about this b2 pawn. He can try to do queen d2, as we were explaining before, and after queen b2, rook b1, queen e3, there are many possibilities. Bishop takes f6, f5, e5, knight b3 in this kind of line. But another clever way to do something about this b2 pawn is to play a3. It's a really elegant move, and now you guys can think, okay, I'm really hungry, I want to take this guy on b2, Pepe. Can I do that? No, you cannot do that. After queen takes b2, precisely the idea of a3 is to cover the b4 square. Now after a move like knight a4, suddenly your queen is trapped, yeah? You cannot go to any square. Now you don't have the b4 square to escape. So that's why after a3, actually black cannot take this guy on b2. That's why the French guy develops his bishop by e7. And now it's not so simple to develop your pieces on the queen side. You would love to play queen d2 and long castles, but now actually black can take on b2, right? Because now knight d4 is not possible because the rook on e1 is hanging. And then after some move like knight d3, knight e4 is a really smart move. Now after knight takes e4, bishop take h4, and black is perfectly fine, yeah? So that's why queen d2 is not possible, and on the other hand, bishop f2 is most of the times played in this position. You cannot take on b2 because of knight a4, and now of course you are creating a direct threat again. If black doesn't move his queen, let's say knight c6 is played, now you can just take on e6, boom, yeah? Now you attack the queen, and then you are winning the game, yeah? You can take on g7 later. So that's why normally black in this position goes for queen c7. It's one of the most best squares for black here. You control the e5 break. And yeah, queen f3 was played by Giri. This square is really interesting for the queen. In many variations in the Najdorf, black would love to play b5. And then after some e5 breaks, black has always to take care about this a8 rook, yeah? And also from f3 you defend the e4 pawn, and then you also you can have this the g4 g2 pawn to go to g4, right? So after queen f3, knight bd7, pretty natural move, controlling the e5 break. Long castles were played, and now b5, yeah? And this is an important moment that you guys need to think with me. So now one could think, okay, e5 is not winning, e5 not winning, yeah, I have a double attack on the rook on a8 and also on the knight on f6, but the thing is, in this kind of positions you can always go bishop g7, yeah? Now actually you attack the queen, and then this e5 pawn is gonna fall, yeah? For example, let's say e takes e6, and now bishop takes e6, just simply like this. And then in the next move, when you move the queen, the Facundo pawn, the f pawn is gonna fall, and then black is gonna be much better, yeah? That's why e5 is not possible. You cannot go crazy here in this position taking on b5. I know it's a really natural try in this kind of Sicilians, but at least when you take on b5, you need to make sure that you're gonna regain this pawn back on d6. Now in this particular position, black could go just simply queen b8, defending the d6 pawn, and then black is much better. After something like queen d3, black can just go rook a6, defending d6 pawn, and then yeah, this is much better for black, yeah? So after b5, just 6 games in my database, some of them grandmasters in this position. Actually, in 6 games, white played g4, yeah? Really natural move, aiming to develop your bishop by a g2, and also aiming to go h4 and g5, yeah? If you manage to go h4 and g5, of course, white will be much better, yeah? Black has to do something about this h4 and g5 thing, and that's why Vachier-Lagrave played g5. A really common idea in the Sicilian. It's true that you make weaker your king side after some move like g5, but at the same time you make sure that actually you're gonna win this square, the e5 square for your knight, when this pawn is exchanged, yeah? So that's why g5 is really interesting in many positions. You win the e5 square for your beautiful corcel. And now in these positions, h4 was played by Giri. It's actually a novelty according to my database. Bishop g2 was played in the game between Grigoriev and Zak in 2012. The idea is rather simple. Now actually you are threatening to go e5. Let's say, for example, you take on f4. You are really hungry and you take on f4. Now e5 is a boom, yeah? Because now bishop b7 is not possible. Now you can just simply take, and after moving your rook, just e takes f5, winning a piece. So, but after bishop g2, some move like rook b8 is possible, of course, just removing this rook from this annoying diagonal, and then this is another story, yeah? It's a pretty double-edged position with a lot of things to happen yet, yeah? So after h4, I think this is a really interesting novelty by Giri. Of course, now you want to take on g5, you have to do something about that, and you don't want to capture on f4. Yeah, this doesn't guarantee you the e5 square. That's why you have to take on f4. Yeah, we all agree in this. And then Giri played bishop e2, and let's try to explain the reason. Of course, you could think about going g5 straight away. Yeah. The idea is, of course, now black is not shouldn't take on g5 because this opens too many lines. Let's say, for example, after hg, rook h1, queen h1. Now, actually, there are many moves. You can go queen h8. You can go after knight g8. You can go g6 because e6 is extremely weak, and this is much better for white. But the idea, on the other hand, for black in this position, if after g5 you can just play knight e5. And when you take this guy here on f4, you can just go knight g4. And now actually the bishop is not on e2. You can jump here, and then probably you are going to gain the bishop pair because you are also threatening to take on g5. That's why I think that's the reason why Anish Giri went for bishop e2. You in the next move probably you are going to recapture this guy here on f4, and then yeah, you could play g5, and then the g4 square is covered. Yeah, and now you cannot be so greedy. You cannot try to keep all of your pawns with black pieces. So now e5, it's a terrible move from the strategical point of view. It's true that you defend the f4 pawn, nobody's gonna take it, but you can see here how weak are your squares f5 and d5. After knight f5, almost black has to resign. Yeah, so don't be too greedy, and then don't try to keep all your pawns. Instead, after bishop e2, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave decided to go for rook g8. It's a really natural move from the human point of view because you stop g5 and then you attack the g4 pawn. Yeah, so I think we all agree on this. And then now it's a really complicated moment on the game. Anish Giri played rook d g1, and we are going to explain later why it's possibly a mistake. Yeah, it's possibly a mistake. So one interesting try was to the move g5. Yeah, because after h takes, now actually taking on g5 is not a good idea, because after rook takes g5, now you can just go rook h8, and there are so many crazy lines here. I just want to show you some of them, guys. So rook g8 takes, and now boom, e5, attacking this rook on b7. And after bishop b7, it's true that now actually you can take on e6. Boom, knight takes e6. Of course, if you take on f3, knight takes e7 wins the game. And after f takes e6, now you have this beautiful square for your queen, queen h5. The knight is not on f6 anymore. And after king d8, you can take on d6. You are a piece down, but after queen f7, this knight has to be moved to f8, and then you take on e6. And there are so many threats here in this position. You are a piece down, but actually white is completely winning in this position, because after you remove this bishop here from, for example, let's say to e5, there is a strong move, bishop b6, winning the queen on the spot. Yeah. So this was a crazy line that could happen in the game, but the thing is, after g5 straight away, h takes. Now the good move for black is knight e5, and after queen f4, knight fd7. So now you have this square for your knight. Now you are threatening to take on g5, winning the queen. So let's say rook h5, and this is a pretty double-edged position with many options for both sides. So this could have been another story. Instead, Anish Giri went for rook dg1. I mean, if from my point of view, this is a really natural move. You defend the g4 pawn, and now you plan to go g5, right? But there is a really strong blow here. There is a really amazing move. Well, not amazing, but a really strong move, d5. We are going to try to explain the reasons. So why d5 was not strong before? So let's say d5 straight away. The idea is after e takes d5, knight e5. This is the move that Vachier played in the other line. What actually would happen in the game. Now you have a resource here. A really good resource is the move d6. The move d6, and now after knight takes f3, d takes c7. Let's see what's the difference now. Let's see why rook dg1 it's possibly a mistake. So after bishop b2, rook g8, rook dg1, now d5, e takes d5, and now knight e5. The thing is, you cannot actually go now d6, because after taking on f3, d takes c7, now your rook is on g1 and it's not on d1. So actually black is able to take on g1, and actually black is much better, yeah? So incredibly, rook dg1 is not a good move. So this is what happened in the game. d5, e takes d5, knight e5, d6 is not possible, so Anish Giri decided to remove his queen and place it in h3, the only reasonable square. And now in this position, of course, there's no need to say that, okay, we need to say, because after queen f4, knight d3 is just ra-da-da-da-da-da-da, yeah, it's a shotgun move, just winning the queen. So that's why queen h3 is the only interesting square for white's queen. And now e takes d5. There are so many pieces targeting the g4 pawn that again Anish Giri played a really human move, rook e1, because it's actually one move that avoids the g4 pawn to be captured. Let's say now knight eg4. You don't avoid it, but actually you get a lot of compensation. Bishop takes e4, bishop takes, and now queen d3. And now it's clear that white has a lot of compensation. This king is in the center, so let's say king f8. You can jump with your beautiful corcel to f5, and then attacking the e7 bishop. This bishop is coming to d4, and suddenly, yeah, you see a lot of light in your position for white, yeah? So that's why in this position, Vachier-Lagrave played in a really accurate way. He went for king f8. There's no need to hurry up taking on g4. Actually, white's position look a bit artificial. You have many ideas related with b4 now that you can take back with the bishop. There's no pin anymore here in this file. Again, Anish decided to go for another human move, knight f5, just defending the g4 pawn. But actually, we are going to explain some ideas. After bishop takes, g5 takes, g4 takes f5. Now we have to explain that actually, imagine guys that if the dark square bishops are not in the board, actually black will have a lot of squares. Rook g3, you could play d4, e3 is weak as well. So that's why now bishop c5 is a really good move, exchanging the dark squares bishop, because the dark squares are really weak for white, yeah? So bishop c5 is a really good move from my point of view, and it was played in the game. And now the position is just too bad for white, yeah? In the game, queen f1 was played, that looks really sad, but another move is just not working. For example, let's say rook hf1, you can play bishop f2, rook f2, and now, as we said, now some squares are available for our pieces. Let's say rook g3. And just two options, reasonable options, let's say queen h2, now you can jump to g4 with a fork, and then it's gone. And then if you go to h1, you have also the option of going here, sorry, queen h1 here, boom, rook c3, and after b takes c3, queen takes c3. There are so many threats in this position, yeah, queen takes a3, rook c8, knight e4, so many active pieces for black, yeah, and his king is completely safe. That's why white has almost to resign here in this position. So rook hf1 was not possible, so he went for queen f1. At least after bishop f2, you are not gonna come to g3 with a tempo, but instead Vachier-Lagrave decided to go for d4. Now that actually this knight hasn't got a proper square, and you can see that all Anish's pieces are in the 7th or 8th rank, so actually this cannot be good for white, yeah? So he went for knight d1, trying to regroup this knight by up d2. But now that the knight is not on c3, you can also jump with your knight to e4, yeah? And now again you are creating a direct threat. Let's say you do something stupid like rook h3. You can just take on f2 and then d3 with a double attack to the queen and to the bishop. That's why Anish Giri tried to play bishop f3 here in this position. If knight takes f3, you can take on e4. The position is extremely bad anyway, but okay, that's one of the ideas. But instead, Vachier-Lagrave saw here a combination that actually was just winning the game. So knight takes f2, and now bishop takes a8. Looks like you are an exchange up, but you can see your position, how bad it is. So now another strong move, boom, knight e d3. And again, we have to calculate all the possibilities, just two options, yeah? You can just take on c3, you can play king d2, no more options, yeah? So let's say white takes on d3. The idea is just to go bishop a3. Now you have to start moving with your king to d2. After knight c3, just queen takes c3 because there is a ping here. So after king d2, just bishop b4 check, and then there is no squares for this king, yeah? And queen e2, sorry, not queen, king. And now just one last amazing move, strong move, f3. The idea is after king f3, you just give checkmate on g3, and if bishop takes f3, you don't have this square on f3 anymore to run with your king. So now queen c2 is a checkmate because you cannot go to f3, right? So that's why c takes e3 is not possible. Instead, Anish decided to run with his king to d2. And now the move that the French played is knight takes e1, really natural move. Queen f2, and now d3. Attacking the queen, aiming to go bishop e3 in the next move, almost with a checkmate. He took on e1, and now bishop e3. And actually, Anish had to resign here in this position. Let's just try to understand why. If king d1, just queen c2 checkmate. If king d3, just queen c4 checkmate. So the only option is just to take on d6. F takes d6, and f takes e3, king d3, and now, yeah, the position is just completely lost for white. Yeah, for example, queen d8 with a check, winning the bishop on a8, and again, even Magnus Carlsen cannot hold this with white against any of us. Yeah. So really crazy game with a lot of crazy lines that actually was not that easy to understand, at least for me during my analysis. I hope you guys have enjoyed in this game. It has been a brutal win for Vachier-Lagrave, one of the most experts in the Najdorf. And yeah, just to remember, you guys, you can follow all the action in our site Chess24 with commentary in English and Spanish. And yeah, just have a nice night, morning or evening, wherever you are, and take care, yeah? So see you in the next video, guys. Have fun.